Hello. Hello, everybody. All right, everything seems to be working. All right, thanks for tuning in. We're fixing to start a new ghost race. Basically, it always makes it where there's one set out, so we're just waiting on a few of the drivers to get up and go, make sure that their cars are ready to go, and we're going to start a race. So then, basically, what is going on is the Ghost 1, Ghost 2, Ghost 3, Ghost 4, those are fill ins. This will be a 10 round robin rotation heat, but it always makes it where there's one guy setting out that's able to hit the button uh, on the track. And we're going to give this a go and see if it's going to work out well. It'll free me and my wife up so we can take care of stuff here inside of the shop. But give me just one moment. I'm going to go out there and check on the racers, and then we'll try to get this race going. Oh, all right. So we are still waiting on one racer. As soon as he's ready, we'll head right into racing. I think all the guys are somewhat excited about how this works. The guys are going to hit the buttons themselves, and if whoever hits it, of course, that car is going to go in front of the start finish line. They'll basically lose a lap. But then that might keep the guys from wanting to hit it and let the track marshals do their best to get the cars back on. If not, then of course they have to serve that penalty. Michael Hazlett there in the road workers type jacket with the reflections and things on his jacket. He's come to help us tonight, and we appreciate that. Of course, Michael, he's been a big help since he's been coming down here for sure. Him and his wife, Nikki, uh, they always find a way to help somehow. Just lay it right there. I'll fix it. No, that's fine. I'll get it. Thank you, Mike. Everybody's clapping. Something's going on out here. All right, looks like Paul's back. All right, is everybody ready? All right, here we go. Paul trying out his new truck. It's been through a couple motor replacements. We'll see if it holds up, holds any kind of snuff. We have tried to free that thing up the best that we could. He's trying to get it set up for possible series here for too long. Tim Hall back in the racing mix. Been gone for a couple months. I think he spent time with some family, did some RVing and camping and stuff like that. So good to see him back. Also, Glenn Burden there. He's on your high lane there of white, racing next to Paul and or next to Tom. Tom Payton just turning 16 today. He brought us some, him and his mom brought us some cookies in here. And of course, we sampled some of those earlier to celebrate Tom's birthday. So I'm glad Tom decided to come and spend some birthday time here with us, getting a couple of these races. I think after this, we're going to try a GTP race. I know a lot of the guys have been working on their cars and trying their best at keeping them running good. Seems like Paul Woosley's truck wanting to come out of the slot there, leaving Dead Man's Corner. Track Marshal's Randy Kirtley on deck, so he's actually in this race too, but he's our track marshal with the Ghosts. Of course, you see none of these Ghosts carrying any of their laps right now. And they're just fillers so that we have a set out. Michael Hazlett there just to the left of him as he goes to try to get these cars put back in as quick as possible. Very quick at getting Tim Hall's car back there in yellow, getting him back running. Michael ran in our dual GRC this past weekend, did quite well. Paul Woosley, 41 laps right now, a median of 2.02. Right now, currently, well, just until Tim came about, was holding what looked to be the fastest median. Maybe I just had my eyes crossed there. But Tim Hall with a 1.92 median currently right now with his car. Best lap, 1.87 and a 1.9. It is definitely somewhat neck and neck as we see a stalled out car of Glenn Burden's there up on the high banks on red. That's the end of our heat. We have Tim Hall with 58 laps, Paul Woosley with 57, Tom Payton with 55, and Glenn Burden with 52 to round up your heat. Randy Kirtley should be coming in this next heat as the racers get ready and check everything out on their cars for the next few minutes in their pit area. Nice, beautiful night yet again here Livermore, Kentucky at Lanes Raceway. Several cars lined up. Quite a few people over next door to Mexican restaurant La Cabana, getting them something to eat. Woosley clan there. Come to see Tom and Paul do a little bit of racing. Looks like they're going to head out. People going in to get them some Mexican food. So we head back to the oval cam here. We can see Randy Kirtley getting his car up and running, or at least at the very least getting his controller hooked up. So we now have Glenn Burden coming off to be the track marshal for the next heat. Randy Kirtley should be filling in on red. Minute and 6 seconds left to go before we go green. Tim Hall already taking his position there, ready to go racing there on orange. Paul Woosley kind of just hanging back, sitting on the orange table there. Tom Payton still working on his car. So far the most diligent when it comes to fixing up his car right now. Just got a motor change in that baby right before he went to eat earlier, so and brushes probably be breaking in here in the next few heats. 28 seconds left to go before we go green. Head back over here in the booth. You can see me. Hello, everybody. Snacks here at Lanes Raceway. Of course, we got a full plethora of them back here. We've got some new bodies in today's order. Got some Warrior bodies. I know some guys were wanting those. Got, I think, 5 of those in. Got some Orca HDs and some, which is high downforce, and some regular Orcas in. We do now currently have Parma 26s. I know several guys were wanting those. We got those in. And some cut down guide flags, the carbon hub tires and stuff. A few people were looking at those. Got some little bit bigger diameter rear tires for the truck series that's coming up. 0.91s. So they're about right at a tenth or so of an inch bigger diameter. So keep your back end up off the ground so you can pass tech a little bit easier, maybe get a couple more races out of it. And just some other kind of just keeping everything up and going type stuff. Basically, all the stuff we were running out of, we just got it reordered for the guys, because I know a lot of them were trying their best to get those carbon hubs. So we got 10 of the Fish tires 760s and 10 of the 790s Fish tires. And even ordered a set of composites. I know there was one guy wanting some composite sets for his wing car. See Tim Hall running 87 laps there. Michael Hayes looked quick on the snatch to grab him there on orange. And he's able to get put back on in a timely fashion. Underneath him, Tom Payton with his new truck. Looks like he's reeling old Tim in there. Tim Hall actually running a chassis that was built here at Lanes Raceway. He ended up getting it off of a guy at a drag race, I believe. Of course, we'll blueprint chassis here, free them up, make them more that they're competitive here at Lanes Raceway, and the rest is in your hands at that point. So it boils down to, are you going to be consistent behind the trigger? So, you know, Tim has proven over and over again that he is very consistent on the triable track. Tom Payton really meant it. Looks like Tim lets him go on by as the pressure was surmounting between the two racers. We see Paul Woosley there on the underside there on black. He made a move also. There on the outside of red, we see Randy Kirtley giving it everything his car can give. And he was able to turn 57 laps there on red. Glenn Burden, still 52. He'll be going into his second set out here. Tomorrow night, Friday night, here at Lanes Raceway, we're going to have a GTP race, possibly on the orange. Usually we do it on the orange. Sometimes guys want to do it on the trioval. We'll just see what they want to do at 7:30. But before that, we'll be having a pinball competition like we've held for the past couple weeks. Very, very popular, at least in the past couple weeks. People coming in here. None of us professional by no means, but it'll be starting at 6:15. Of course, come on down a little bit earlier, get you some practice in. Try our best to live stream that and keep that stream up and running. Internet here at Livermore is not what is the best internet for sure, but it's enough to get a stream going. Of course, everybody has really enjoyed that. This week, we also got our pin sounds in for Rush, Mandalorian, and Godzilla. Of course, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles after the fact, or I'd ordered them. Now, those pin sounds, they come from France. A couple brothers in France have that company, Pin Sound, and they do really, really good work that I've noticed. We can also hook in Bluetooth to it now and transfer the sound from the pinball table to the computer, or we can transfer it over to our speaker here at Lanes Raceway and get everybody in the mood for playing pinball. Of course, I got a splitter here, so I'm thinking about doing both and maybe having a competition on Godzilla tomorrow, and of course Mandalorian, Rush, and Turtles 2 for everybody. It'll probably be the same as what we did last week with the strike system, but I might talk to the ladies and gentlemen that come and see if they want to try something different. Of course, there's several different things you can do on that match play, and I just don't know what if people want to do it by points or if they want to do it by strikes. However, they want to do it. Strikes, of course, is very very easy to deal with. The bottom two receive strikes, and the top two they move on, and you go until 3 strikes or 2 strikes or whatever how many strikes you set go. But nonetheless, we have a great time playing pinball here. 13 seconds left to go before we go back green. We see Glenn Burden there getting his car set up there on red. Tim Hall be coming out this heat. Paul Woosley first across the start finish line with 120 right now currently, as we get a hard hit here from Glenn Burden's car coming off into the high banks. So he might be having an issue with his car. He's going back to work on his car to see what's up with it. If anything, I know for sure he'll figure it out in a short amount of time. Last week, during the dual GRC, quite a few people came off in the high bank section. Is the cars are able to carry a little bit more speed now that the start finish line area there at Dead Man's Corner is now banked somewhat a little bit. So people were able to carry a lot more speed going through exiting out of Dead Man's Corner into the crook of the track. And I think a lot of that has to do with the gearing too, where people are gearing their stuff along so that they can get that top speed. And what's happening is that they're coming around that corner with a lot more speed than they used to. They're causing quite a few of their cars to come off. So Glenn Burden was actually supposed to be setting out, and what ended up happening was he went on and went over to red and took a couple laps there for the Ghost, but nothing wrong with his car. So we see Tim's car coming off there on White Lane, quickly put back on by Glenn Burden. And I do somewhat like this Ghost thing. It frees me and my wife up, of course, and doesn't make me stress as much about overworking her, or makes me feel like I need to be out there track marshaling. Granted, it does require us to run 2 more heats of power, I suppose you could say. As we see Paul Woosley there on yellow kind of slipped out of the crook of the track, got back in there as he's fixing to get passed there on the inside by Tom Payton. 1 minute left to go. 147 laps made by Paul Woosley. Is Paul Woosley's car getting saved by Glenn Burden as Glenn Burden gets him put back on there on yellow. A little bit of a crunch sound coming from Paul Woosley's car as another car is since selling there as Michael Hazlip is getting them put back on. We also see Glenn Burden getting Tim put back on. That was the car of Randy Kirtley and Tim Hall. Randy Kirtley passing Tim there on the inside as Tim goes to get his car put back on again by Michael Hazlip. Very, very quick hands as he gets him put back on. White Lane being somewhat of an atrocity currently for Tim Hall. Just being able to be turned out. Could be an issue of bending after the first hit. Who knows? But they continue to go on as Randy Kirtley is making another lap back around as he's making up quite a few laps there as he's in on this first heat. Won't be able to see how well he does until the end of the probably halfway when they do a crossover and a few more people set out. Glenn Burden now on deck, fixing to go back into race this next heat as he set his 2 out. Tom Payton with 176 laps, currently in the lead with 58.7 average laps with that new motor he's running. Paul Woosley in second place with 58.3, running 175 total laps. Both of these guys been in for 3 heats total. Tim Hall there with 167, 55.7 heats, as he's run the majority of his heats up high. So now we'll be able to see maybe a little bit of difference in his lap turning for sure. Randy Kirtley there at 57.5, running his laps up high. Pretty well turned laps there up high as he's turned 3 more than Tom Payton there on green, our current leader. Glenn Burton with 52 as he had to do his first set outs. So he's been out for the past 2 heats. He's coming back in now, and he's going to start turning some more laps. Michael Hazlip up in here, the man, the myth, the legend, also a great track marshal that I've been watching. He's taking a look at a body as I think he is grown fond of a body that was made for Greg Kimball, as Greg Kimball has commissioned us here at Lanes Raceway to make him a GRC so he can run these races with the guys too. And Michael just recently got him a truck body painted up with some metallic fluorescent blue and silver. And in the backing of the silver, we actually did a black on Michael's to kind of darken the silver over. It's very reminiscent of the silver car that Darrell Waltrip used to drive back in the late 80s, early 90s. Very similar to that type of silver. His blue, of course, is like a Coors blue, like on the side of a Coors can. But I'll tell you what, I'll show you this body real quick. We got time. This is just a body we painted here at Lanes Raceway. This is Greg Kimball's colors here. You can see these sparkles in it that we put in there. Also, you can see the tinted windows. That's a spray tint that we do here. Got some sparkles there on the pink and stuff. That's Greg Kimball's color selection. He's decided he wants to be blue in the front, pink in the back, something bright that he can see. The majority of our racers, at least right now, having somewhat of issues of seeing some of the cars, especially on the darker tri-oval track. So these brighter type colors here definitely stick out for the guys, and they're able to see it. You can see Paul Woosley there opting to do the orange in the front and the pink in the back, kind of a sunset type look, as he represents his favorite brand of bourbon from Kentucky. And of course, we made that sticker there also here at Lanes Raceway, plucked it out and everything. Took quite a bit of time. Guys say I do it for too cheap, but at the same time, I'm here at work, so and I enjoy it. So we don't charge a whole lot to get that done. $5 a color for a sticker. Yeah, if you need bodies painted or anything like that, you want a Lexan body or even a model made, we can actually, if you look, we can actually vacuum form one of your models to make it look like one of your real life cars or something like that. Now, of course, that takes a little bit extra time to deal with, but we can bring your fantasies to life for sure when it comes to model car racing. As we get back underway, we see Tom Payton still out in the lead with 190 there on Black Lane. Turning 15 current laps here, a median of 1.88. Randy Kirtley, the next closest to him on blue with 1.93, turning 18 laps. Paul Woosley there in second place, trying to reel Tom in the best that he can with a median of 2.06, as he's involved in an incident there with Glenn Burton on red. Both of them gets put on in a timely fashion, as we see Tim Hall now going to take his 2 set-outs and help track marshal. Michael Hazlip, our guaranteed 100% of the time track marshal, as we see him over there in Dead Man's Corner also helping Tim out, and we do appreciate that. As we continue to go, we see that Paul Woosley's car in a pretty good fashion, actually, racing-wise. I'm actually very pleased with the new motor that he's selected for it, as he's staying quite competitive. Now, of course, the inside lanes and stuff are going to catch up with Paul. So we see Randy Kirtley giving Paul Woosley a gentle boot there in Dead Man's Corner. And it looks like he's going to come up on him again and maybe do the same. But we'll see, as he makes a nice clean pass that time on the inside of Paul Woosley. Now, Paul's definitely breaking this motor in as we tried to get him set up with another motor, as I think that was the problem before whenever his car was really dogging out. It wasn't even able to run a 2-second lap time on the middle section of the racetrack. Well, nobody enforced the rule there. If the racers don't enforce it, we're not going to enforce it. As Glenn Burton hits the track call button, since he hit the track call button, technically his car is supposed to go in front of the start-finish line. But if nobody enforces it, we're not going to. And like I said, it's all just to keep everybody running pretty smooth. I think a lot of these guys are just casual racers for sure at Lanes Raceway, having a good time. Tom Payton there, 59.2 laps as he finishes up Black Lane, tying Paul Woosley with 228 laps. 59.2 is his average. He's out ahead of everybody. Randy Kirtley trying to reel in some of that action as he goes into the bottom lanes. This is really where it's going to show Randy maybe catching him up. Also, Tim Hall, he's setting out another heat, but when Tim comes back in, we'll see if he's able to get out of red lane, move to green, and start moving down also and increasing that average too. Glenn Burden, he is now on his way down. He's going to be on green lane next. He's 52.5, so we're going to start seeing his average increase. All these guys out there right now, we see Tom still working on his car. Dead of winter. It's gotten quite cold just in the past day. So Tom's definitely not going to be taking it up there to the air conditioner because currently that is not an air conditioner, that is a heater. Doesn't want his car getting any hotter, he wants it getting cooler. So we'll see how that works out for him as he's probably just going to blow on that motor. I've been thinking, you guys maybe can let me know in the comment section or something like that, but I've been thinking here lately, maybe at the end of each one of our wooden tables there, putting like a pit station where that we like take a router and just route out a little slot so that you can stick your slot car in it and have little well holes there for a 4-inch car and a 4.5-inch car that after the heat you can just stick your car there and hit a button or something and turn a fan on. It'll start cooling the car for the guys. Of course, you know, a lot of the profit and stuff that we get here, we don't always have to put it into making new orders or put it to pinball or something like that. We can do something like that, and I think it would help the racers out a lot since they're right there next to their pit station anyway when they're racing on there on the green track. Excuse me. Greg Kimball, I'm on blue. Greg Kimball, you're on blue. What is that, Ghost 5? "20 seconds left to go, and everybody seems to be bundling up a little bit here at Lanes Raceway. I got here earlier today, and it was 70, 71, 72 degrees. So anyways, the wife, she was like, "It feels good in here." I was like, "I'm burning up." You know, I was moving around, putting the pin sounds and stuff on the pinball tables, getting them cleaned up and everything for the pinball tournaments, of course, tomorrow. But as I was sitting there, I just had to turn it down. So I turned it down to 64 degrees, and it's starting to get a little nippy in here for me now that I'm sitting. Greg Kimball, fast lane around. Yeah, I mean, I think that at least on the orange track for sure, I would have to agree the fastest lane around would probably be blue, in my opinion. I really enjoy blue. But I will tell you this, my favorite lane at least is black. It always has been. That's the first lane I try to learn on a new track, and then I move to red because those are usually your difficult lanes. Now on a tri-oval black, I love black because you're getting around the track so much faster. If you got your car set up, of course, for that, you know this, Greg, that you can really turn quite a few laps. As we see Glenn Burden's car kind of leaking out yet again there on the high banks, having some issues possibly with a bent frame, bent chassis or something like that, or just maybe a little bit too much of aggression in the trigger finger through the crook of the track. Glenn giving it over to the man OG Randy Kirtley there as he gets his car put on the start-finish line there. Of course, Glenn hitting the button to keep his car from getting completely demolished. Probably a wise decision, I would say. Paul Woosley's car, at least through my camera, what I'm seeing here on the white lane, is almost like it's glowing in the dark, as if it's producing light itself. Randy Kirtley's there, also quite easy to see there on purple, that orange and silverish white color, almost like a platinum white. Of course, Tom Payton, he loves the camouflage. He loves dressing his cars up like the Batmobile, like a darkish purple mixed with like some kind of galaxy type blue and black on the other side. I've called it Two-Face before. I've called it Batman, but all in the DC comic realm for sure, as he is definitely the Dark Knight here at Lanes Raceway. And he'll tell you straight up that he will wreck you if you get on the outside of him. So we see Randy Kirtley there trying to make a pass on him on the inside of yellow there. Is Randy's just kind of biding his time. He knows the way that Tom likes to roll, so we'll see if he's able to hold the competition. As we see Glenn Burton's car coming off yet again and kind of slotting there in on yellow. Of course, rules state whoever hits the button gets put in the front of the start-finish line. That's what Randy Kirtley's doing for Glenn. Glenn's just obeying the rules. It's good to see that. Of course, Glenn's always a very, very fair man here at Lanes Raceway. And here's something I know, too, about Glenn. If you ever race against Glenn, you're faster than him, he's not going to wall you. He will let you go by. Now, the only time that I know that Glenn will not let you go by is if your name just so happens to be Gabriel Kirtley. If your name's Gabriel Kirtley, he's going to put you in the wall. And, that's something between him and Gabriel. I don't know. It stems back years. So he definitely doesn't like to see Gabriel Kirtley win. But everybody else, you can't race next to a guy any better than Glenn Burton. Also, Glenn Burton, great pinball player. He's won our past 2 pinball competitions. I will say, the last one, it was by the skin of his teeth, as it was a strike-based situation, and it came down within 1 strike between the guys. But Glenn, he really enjoys pinball. He puts in a lot of time practicing. Christy Bobby out there currently right now practicing some pinball, getting ready for tomorrow, most likely. She's really wanting to dial in Mandalorian, it looks like. You can see her there in the top left of your screen there on the pinball machines. But she's come the past 2 pinball competitions we've had. Everybody has really just taken a liking to it. It's just good, wholesome family fun as we get together and do that. And that new match play software, I can't thank Kay enough. Kay, she plays in the IFPA. She's, I think, 12th in the ladies standings in Tennessee. She'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but nonetheless, Paul Woosley is cracking me up here as he peeks in there. You see him there in the top left of your screen. But yeah, I'll tell you what, she come in, she said, most places this is what they use. And so we gave it a shot last week, and I'll tell you what, I was really impressed with it as we put it up on the screen where the pinball scoreboard usually is, and they loved it. I mean, they were able to see how many strikes they got. All I had to do was just go up in there and reset it after each round and refresh it, and boom, it showed everybody that had their strikes, and it showed the ones that didn't have their strikes. So, that's a confidence booster too when you see everybody with a strike and then your name's up there with no strike. So it was really cool just hanging out with everybody. It does somewhat get cramped there when we have a lot of people playing pinball, but I think that's half the fun too. Glenn, he's going over there to check to see how good Christy Bobby's doing on pinball. He's feeling threatened, I believe, for tomorrow's pinball competition. He's got to keep his eye out, just like when he was racing. He's got to keep his eye out on the pinball too. It's just another competition for Glenn. Glenn and of course Randy Kirtley. If there's a competition going on here, if it's drag racing, if it's GTP on the orange, if it's oval racing, if it's pinball, these guys are down here. They want to get involved in everything, and we really do appreciate them, especially being a number down here and helping everybody out, keeping the lights on, basically, if you get right down to it. And it's a blessing to have those guys. And of course, it's a blessing to have Randy as my dad, as he's definitely pushed me and my brother to be quite competitive through the years. Randy now currently on Black Lane. We can see him really giving it all he's got here. And like I was telling you earlier, Greg, we get a little bit of a follow there. Somebody comes off and it actually caused a breakout to take place. So they'll need to go behind the line so they can get their lane. But like I was talking about earlier, we'll see this heat. I believe that Randy will be able to pull the most laps so far there on Black Lane, as Black Lane is about 5 foot shorter here on the orange track. And a lot of times that is kind of downplayed a lot of the times, especially with newcomers. They'll come in here and, they'll choose one of the middle lanes or they'll choose an upper lane because they like the color, and I mean, that's a good thing to do. But one thing that I've noticed is that some of their buddies might choose a lower lane just to get a little distance between them. And especially on like the rental races and stuff, they think, man, I'm just getting blistered out here. Well, I don't want anybody to ever think that they're getting blistered out here. It's just the difference in that, that's a lower lane. it's about 5 foot shorter than that red lane. So the cars are running good. You just got to run every lane before it all equals out. Michael Hazelip, of course, just this past week, whenever he was in the GRC, he actually, his car broke in really, really well. He was having some issues early on the orange track staying in. He was popping out, coming out of the donut there. So we've been making some modifications here recently to make it a little bit smoother going through that, the donut. You can kind of see it there in the picture. It's kind of like this. I wish I could just move my hands over there. But it's there in right behind Michael Hazelip there is where the donut is. You can kind of see it going at probably about a 15-degree there. Anyways, before it was kind of meeting up like this in that joint. So it's causing people to ramp out. Well, now they've lifted one side to make it more smooth so that when you go around the donut, it's a lot more smoother now. Plus, on the other side by that silver pole on the orange track, they've actually jacked it up. Dad and I helped him a little bit yesterday. Gabriel helped him too. But a bunch of the guys that come and just pitched in and helped with putting the wood, slats, and stuff underneath it to make that possible. Now, this is very beneficial, especially when the guys are running wing cars and stuff like that. As for these heavier cars like that, not so much, but it does affect them whenever they're coming off there. If they're coming off with enough speed, they could ramp out of the slot. But like I said, Michael just getting used to it, just getting used to his controller and everything. By the time he did end up on the circle track, he was just as good as anybody else that night. Of course, a lot of people were coming off on the circle track last night after the orange race. But I will put it this way. For his first time out, his car was breaking in, and it was a very fast car. So, you know about these motors, when the brushes break in, they get to this sweet spot, and it's definitely not after the first race. And I'll just put it this way. I do believe that when he starts getting involved in this, that car starts freeing itself up. He gets his body strengthening so he don't bend and stuff like that. I believe it's just a matter of time for he's racing there neck and neck with Tom, Glenn, Randy, and Tim. Right now, Tom Payton's still in the lead with 358 laps. Close behind him there, Randy Kirtley with 305, now increasing his average to 61. So right now, Randy Kirtley with the highest average. Tom Payton very, very close with him right behind. Paul Woosley with 56.4. Tim Hall 55.8 as he's lowering down. Like I said, his average is increasing because he's getting lower on the field. But Randy Kirtley was able to turn 65 laps there on black, also 65 laps on purple. Currently the highest laps turned of any lane, and that's just simply because those lanes are a little bit shorter. But if you look, just like Greg was saying, there on blue lane, he was able to turn 60 laps. Now that, in comparison to purple and black, of course, being the second best for Randy. Tom Payton was able to inch that out on yellow with an extra 2 laps. So, you're looking at 2 laps probably in between each one of these lanes difference as you start moving down. I'm going to head over to the oval cam. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back here in just a few moments. It is. right, everybody, I'm back. As we get a little bit of a hiccup there with the old processor, so we change it over to the live stream. At any time, you guys can chime in from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch if you've got any questions, or if you just want to chit chat, say hello or anything like that. We're always here. Just like I said, this race is currently live. These guys are actually doing this right now here in Livermore, Kentucky. But I just want to kind of let you guys know, if you're interested in coming at Lanes Raceway, we do have quite a few amenities here that most places wouldn't mostly garner for their racers, or wouldn't, want to have the extra expense. But I think it's almost a necessity. In our bathrooms, of course, we have wet wipes. They're called Dude Wipes is the actual brand, but I can't say enough good about them for in case that time may arise. Also, we have hand sanitizer and some of this man soap. It's like dark rum or something like it. It smells really good. I don't think it smells like rum, but I mean, it's just a good manly type scent. We also have paper towels here. I know that's a bonus for a lot of people. I don't like the blow dryer thing. I never have. I hate that, as I know a lot of people it irritates too. But we got paper towels here for that reason. But anyways, Tom Payton here, still currently in the lead with 415 laps. Looks like he has one more heat to go, and he'll have his two set outs to take place. Randy Kirtley with 368 in second place. Paul Woosley with 282, and very close behind him, Tim Hall with 281, and Glenn Burden with 266. Average is very close between Paul Woosley and Tim Hall, within 0.2 of a lap. Glenn Burden also having a little bit of rough luck early on, but I'll tell you this much: he's going to be coming back, especially whenever he gets on that black lane. Minute and 42 seconds before we go back green again. Having some issues here, dropping frames for Facebook Live, so you'll probably get a little bit of stutter, especially in the video. Hopefully it'll hold together and to the end of this race. And after this, we got a GTP race coming up. Christy Bobby, before when I was out there taking somewhat of a little bit of a break, she was asking some questions about the pinball. She was wondering if Turtles had the pay range on it. Currently, right now, it's a brand new pinball table. We just got it a week or so ago. It doesn't have any of the amenities like Rush, Mandalorian, and Godzilla have on it. Rush, Mandalorian, and Godzilla, they have the shaker motors in them. They got pin sound. They have the cup holders. They got the stern mats. Of course, they have pay range on them. And you can save a quarter using pay range here at Lanes Raceway per game. But I was telling her, here in the next week or so, I'm going to order all that stuff. It'll be here within no time. Other than the pin sound stuff, that stuff comes from France. That takes about a month to get that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We might end up waiting a little bit on that because I know my brother was talking about maybe getting more pinball machines. So I don't really want to make a monthly thing until. You leaving? See you, Christy Bobby. But I don't want to make a huge purchase like that until and have to wait that long, especially if we plan on getting other pinball machines here at Lanes Raceway. So, that'll be further discussion. But everything else we should be able to get in a timely fashion. Of course, all that stuff is domestically produced here in the United States, so it shouldn't take long. As we go back green racing, we see Paul Woosley in that fire vehicle of his there up on top, looking like it's setting fire as it goes through on red lane. I have quite a bit of an issue there keeping up with the guys as he's on the high lane there. Everybody's going to just pretty much be smoking him, but what a beautiful body that truck body is he's not really came off the track since he's been racing with that body. Just been in maybe one or two wrecks this whole time as he's been able to really be consistent. Glenn Burton's car there coming off black as he's trying to turn as many laps as he can there on black. Ooh, Paul Woosley, I just said it a little bit too soon as he's involved in a big incident there. But Tom Payton with quick hands, one car in one hand, one car in the other, able to get both him and Randy Kirtley put back on in a very, very quick fashion. Randy Kirtley currently really fast there on orange lane. 395 laps total as he takes over the lead while Tom is setting out. The Ghost 2 is on deck, so that tells me that Tom's going to be setting out for at least one more heat as we progress through to this 8 of 10 round robin. That means that Randy will be going in for his last uh, heat, or the last heat, the 10 of 10. Randy Kirtley will be track marshaling for that. So we see somewhat of a cluster up that looked like it was taking place there at once between Glenn, Paul, and Tim. Now kind of somewhat separated. Tim and Glenn there neck and neck with each other, blue and black lane, of course, respectively. So we see Glenn there with just a little bit of an edge there, just simply because he has more footage. But both these cars running quite equally with one another. We also see Randy Kirtley there kind of just running away with things as he's got his car pretty much toned in. I think this is his third or so race on this motor, so it's definitely got the brushes going quite well. At the end of that heat, we see Randy Kirtley was able to turn 59 laps there on orange. We also see that Tom Payton still in second place as he still has one more heat to run there on red to catch Randy. Randy's got one more heat to go on white. As we see Tim Hall there, he's going to be running purple and black next. The two heats where he can get the most laps, in my opinion. Paul Woosley there, going to be able to run green and blue. Those will be average, respectable laps for sure. Glenn Burden also there on orange and yellow. Those are going to be middle of the way, respectable laps also. So everybody within 5 or 6 laps of each other, averagely speaking. We see Randy Kirtley there just out in the lead with 61, but Tom Payton with 59.3, very, very close. My nose keeps itching. I just recently shaved my face, and it just feels so weird to me. As I've started growing somewhat of a gnarly beard, I was having hairs and stuff just like straight out on my face. I don't know why my beard does that. It doesn't just like go straight down like a normal beard. But I've trimmed it before and it always just shoots straight out. And it just looks so nasty. So it just needed to be done. I ended up cutting it. Well, the way I did it is I took from right here and over and I just shaved that off and I left my mustache and in this little piece right here, and then I left like a sideburn. I went to Owensboro like that the other day, and my wife thought that was hilarious. I actually forgot it was like that when I was getting stuff, and people were coming up to me, and everybody I come up to, they had a smile on their face. I was like, my wife's like, you're going to start a trend. So I might end up just start doing that. As I thought, well, at least it brings smiles to people's faces. They might like it. But as I got home, mustache was getting up in my nose, and it was time to cut her on down. 40 seconds left to go. I'm going to get me another brisk lemon tea, and I'll be right back with you. Do not like headaches. Hey, Mike. I'm about to take me an Advil. I do love a brisk iced tea with lemon flavoring. We're heading back racing. It looks like the stream is going to be able to hold up for this race, but it's looking like the GTP race we might not be able to do. It's my computer is now starting to overheat a little bit. We should be able to make it through. We got 2 more heats left to go on this one. I might try my best to get it through on the orange, but most likely it's probably best that we just, after this stream, just call it. Of course, we'll have a picture posted who finishes the GTP race, and then tomorrow night we'll of course stream the GTP race, and then that'll kind of separate those two, and we won't put so much stress on the computer. As we've just had quite a bit of bad luck when it comes to getting this software to work the way we want it to. Really high CPU usage. Almost just need to do our best about maybe getting another computer built with a really, really good CPU. Tim Hall's car coming off there. Michael Hayes up quick to get him back on. That car's almost the same color as Michael's jacket. Uh, Tim Hall, of course, he loves the green and he loves the yellow. Every car that I've seen Tim use either has a bright green or a bright yellow in it for sure. As we get ready to go again, we see Tom Payton down there, track marshaling. He's excited. He's ready to get back into that last heat. Paul Woosley, Randy Kirtley, Tim Hall, Glenn Burden. So we see Paul Woosley's truck coming out in a hard fashion, and then immediately thereafter Tim Hall coming off there on purple. So we kind of got somewhat of a spread out there. Thank you for that light. We see Paul Woosley back in good fashion there, as he's not really come off a whole lot tonight. We've noticed that Paul Woosley's truck there, the orange and pink mobile, labeled after one of his favorite brands of whiskey or bourbon. I'm sorry, there's a difference there. I can't tell you what it is, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that can let you know the difference. But he's got a nice little sticker on there. It's kind of funny. As we see a cluster up here taking place, the bright yellow and green car of Tim Hall taking the lead there on purple, the lowest lane. Right there behind him, though, Glenn Burden giving it his all to try to catch up with him. And Randy Kirtley there on the high lane of white, deciding whether or not he wants to pass Paul Woosley. Just trying to push a little bit deeper each time. We'll see if the nerve can stay up for Paul Woosley or if Randy's going to try to make a move. Paul Woosley definitely in the position there on green to give him just a little bit of a love nudge. So Randy Kirtley would be wise probably just to stay on back, as he has gotten a decent amount of laps of 58 turned. So at the end of the heat, we see Randy Kirtley there with 60.6 average. Tom Payton coming in for his last hoorah. He's got to make up that 9 or so points average to be able to catch Randy Kirtley. And Randy Kirtley going to set this one out. So Tom Payton needs to actually make 70 or so laps to be able to catch Randy, which it would be a pretty strong feat for that to take place. But nonetheless, Tom Payton, his car running in a great move tonight for sure, as we see him there very, very close to Randy throughout the night. Tim Hall there in third place, 401 laps, as he's moving into his black lane to get as many laps as he can there. His fastest lap is matching up with Greg Kimball. His 62 laps on blue was his fastest and most amount of laps. So, Greg definitely been in the slot car game for quite some time. I remember Greg even when I was a kid there at Slot City, and we was all racing and stuff down there. So he knows what he's talking about. If he says fastest lane around is blue, you better chuck it up and at least take it serious. And it's, all this stuff is subjective to the racer, depending on how they race. Some racers just cannot drive black. Some racers just do not like it. They don't like purple. They don't like black. Then you got other racers that love blue and they love yellow. My brother, he kind of falls into that category. His favorite lanes are blue and yellow. Now, he can run a mean black lane too. Don't let him get that twisted. But there's people like me and Glenn out there, like, we love purple and we love black. And a lot of that has to do with the orange track being in our basement. I loved running black, yellow, and purple just simply because it was on the side of the track that was easiest to get to where the Rex was. Dad, it seemed like every time we was racing there in the basement, it was always red or white that he was trying to run the more difficult style lanes there, where it cost you more if you wrecked. You had to make a little bit more of an adventure to get across the old mountain of concrete to get to where your cars were wrecked at. 17 seconds, we'll be going back green racing. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves tonight as they're watching this race. If you would, hit that like button, hit the share, comment. If you got any questions, You want to chit chat? You want to talk about something? Just send her on into the old chat box, I guess. And it should pop up here on my screen. I should be able to see you just fine if everything's on the up and up, which I did load it before we started. So we see Tim Hall there with a burst of speed there on black as he's able to turn the first lap of this heat, followed by Paul Woosley and Glenn Burden. Randy Kirtley there is now setting out as Tom Payton comes back in on red lane, giving it everything he can to try to catch back up with Randy Kirtley. Of course, he needs 70 laps to be able to turn, to be able to tie Randy. Pretty big feat to do that on red lane. So most likely, Tom's just got to fend himself between him and Tim Hall, as Paul Woosley is going to try his best to try to reel in Tim to take that podium finish from him. So about the equal distance between the two, between Paul and Tim and Tom. So Glenn Burden there, 406, having a little bit of a rough time tonight there in the high banks. Car coming off a few times, kind of slipping out. That car usually very, very smooth on this track, as Glenn Burden has really set himself a car up that has run quite well here. Just here recently, being able to beat Randy Kirtley actually in the GRC and GTP racing. Of course, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just put in quite a little bit more time on GTP racing versus the GRC stuff. But each racer, they've only got a certain amount of time that they can work on this. Plus, they have work, they have jobs, and they do their best to keep their stuff in as best shape as they can, of course, to be as competitive as they possibly can. I wouldn't say we're the most competitive group. We're more of a casual competitive. As competitive as like Brothers, for instance. But nonetheless, we're not pushing for nationals here. We're just pushing for a good time, and every one of these guys are really doing that tonight. The new Ghost program that we have set up here at Lanes Raceway worked out very well, as we were able to have a track marshal for every heat. Randy hurrying up and getting Glenn Burden put back on the only wreck that took place the whole heat long. Randy Kirtley there, going to be our victor tonight. 485 laps, very close behind him. Tom Payton with 471, probably the difference between just a couple wrecks only. Tim Hall there, 463, very close to Tom Payton. Paul Woosley, 450, close to Tim. And, of course, Glenn Burden there at the back, 441, very close to Paul Woosley. Everybody with just in 5 or 6 laps average of each other. What a great race it was on the oval tonight in comparison to last week. Quite a few wrecks last week. A little bit of modifications took place here on the oval track to kind of get it back into shape, and it seems like she is really back into a shining form, as each and every one of these racers was able to keep their car in a whole lot more successfully than previously last week. Could be the colder temperatures. Could be that, last week we were running a little warm in here. There were some people in here sweating earlier this week, and maybe the cooler temperatures, the track just likes it. These tracks are made of wood, so there is quite a few things that can unsettle and kind of rest in certain places. But like I said, everything ran well tonight. Thank you guys for watching. If you would, like, subscribe, send it to your friends, family, enemies, and all that. God bless you. This is Donovan Kirtley. Thank you for watching.